What's going on, guys? It's Ty the TV Guy back with another video today, and this time it's about my reaction and thoughts to the Stranger Things Season 5 first trailer. So this teaser actually released yesterday. Unfortunately, I have a job where I work 9 to 6, so I couldn't really react to it during the day, but I put this video together for you guys tonight and just want to give my thoughts, and I'm really going to break this down really scene by scene, or I guess clip by clip that they show us in this teaser trailer. And before I get into the specifics, I just want to say that I think this trailer was really well done. It gives you just enough to make you super intrigued about what's going to happen this season, but of course doesn't give too much away. And I'm going to dive into what I liked specifically about it here in a moment. Before I get too far, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more Stranger Things content as we approach the release of Season 5. But without further ado, let's get into this. So the trailer starts out with Steve doing some solo work in a van where he seems to be, trying to relay like the radio frequencies to the rest of the crew or something like that. I don't know exactly how like radio tower and radio waves work. I'm not too experienced with that type of stuff, but it appears like he's doing something in that realm. I can't say I expected the first shot of the teaser trailer to be of Steve Harrington alone in a van, but hey, that's what we got, and it's a cool intro to the video. We then see Mike and Lucas biking away from the WSQK radio station, and then it pans to some of the other characters that are still in like the main room or the basement of this radio station, which is characters like Will, Robin, Eleven, Nancy, and Joyce. And then Mike starts saying the burn is commencing in 5, 4, etc. He counts down.
Burn commencing in 5.
So some type of burn is happening. This reminds me back to season 2 when they were burning the vines and just a lot of the stuff that was growing in the Upside Down via the orders of Hopper to Dr. Owens. So I think to stave off the evil once again early in the season, they're going to commence burning like Mike is talking about here. That's going to be part of their plan early on. It also seems like Lucas is a bit of a lookout in this. I'm not sure exactly what it is he's looking out for, if it's just like looking out for the monsters or looking out for military officials, but he seems to be on some heightened ground outside of the WSQK radio station, or maybe right down the road to keep a lookout for the crew. They then show like an underground bomb shelter looking type of place with just some regular old Hawkins citizens, so that might tell us a little bit about what the state of the town gets to pretty early on in this season. We then get a glance at Hopper all bearded up saying come on, also kind of rooting on this plan, it appears. And then we pan back to the WSQK radio station where we see Robin, Eleven, Nancy, and Will. And the first really interesting thing happens here. Will is in the background on the left-hand side, and all of them are looking around, but Will appears to be like looking up as if he's already kind of getting possessed or something's going on with his tingle. Something is going on with Will in this scene already, and that is a theme throughout this teaser trailer. And then sure enough, the next scene flashes to Will's classic stance where he's grabbing the back of his neck. So Will, a heavy focus early on here. Before we move to the next portion of this, I want to note a couple things early on. Throughout this entire thing, they go back to Steve turning up the decibels in whatever van he's in for that radio signal. And then also, I want to point out this Ross Duffer Instagram post where he posted the trailer and said, don't worry about spoilers, essentially. This is only stuff from mainly the first volume, so the first 4 episodes, a little bit from like 5 and 6, not much from the last 2 episodes, which is to be expected for a teaser trailer released this far before the season. And I bet even the final trailer right before, like sometime early in November that comes out, won't have like a lot of stuff from the final couple episodes, because first of all, they don't want to reveal that. Second of all, they'll probably have smaller trailers in between the volumes that will come out and show us a little glimpse into that stuff. So the next scene here that they flash to is Mike, Will, and I think Lucas in the back on bikes riding and just kind of showing the military situation in Hawkins right now with a military truck passing them on the road and helicopters all throughout the sky. And of course, we've known for a while that Linda Hamilton is going to be the lead of kind of the military presence in Hawkins, and we get even more of a glimpse into it in this next scene here where we see downtown Hawkins and how it's kind of been makeshift reconstructed, and there's a bunch of heavily armed soldiers marching in the middle of the town, and then we see kind of an epic glimpse into like the gate into the Upside Down in the middle, kind of where the library is supposed to be. Then it flashes to Dustin honoring Eddie at his defaced grave where it says burn in hell. And so I think we're going to get a lot more emotional depth from Dustin than we've gotten in past seasons. I know he's kind of always like that steady presence, the one who's always emotionally there, always ready to gives some smart advice to the crew, always has a funny line. But I think this season we might see a little bit of a darker side of Dustin just because he's going to be struggling with this type of stuff a lot. Now, it's important to mention at this point that Dustin's face isn't all bruised up yet, as we see later on in this teaser trailer. So at least at this point, which I'm assuming is probably the first episode, him visiting Eddie's grave, he hasn't been beaten up yet, or whatever does that to his face hasn't occurred. It's also at this point where Jonathan's little monologue, not really a speech, but just the dialogue between him and Nancy starts. And I think this is actually a really important point in this trailer, and one that makes me concerned about Jonathan's future and chances of surviving. During Jonathan's dialogue, we get a bunch of flashes for a lot of our characters. We see Lucas once again holding Max's hand in the hospital. We see Hopper and Joyce sitting, staring into each other's eyes, trying to gather some hope probably. We see the burn commencing by some soldiers. I don't know if this is the same burn that our characters are involved in or if there's separate operations going on here, but they are burning, the upside down vine type stuff once again. And then it flashes to Nancy, Jonathan, Steve, and Dustin in the upside down version of Hawkins' lab. I'm so curious to see what they're going to be doing back at this lab. Obviously, it's kind of the source of where it all started, but what are these characters specifically doing there? I think is a big question I want answered, and I'm just really excited for this character grouping in general. And then we get an iconic shot of the four boys putting their hands in the middle, to try to rally around each other here. Everything just looks so good, so clean in this scene. It's also like nostalgic. I feel like the colors are dulled down again to kind of give us that season 1 and 2 era vibe, but mixing it with super high stakes that are more like the recent seasons. And then we get a couple emotional shots between couples. One of Mike and Eleven kind of caressing Mike's face. A very serious moment there. I'm excited that these young kid actors are now young adults, and I think the maturity of their acting and hence probably the quality of it is going to improve, especially in these emotional / relationship type moments. And it's cool to get a glimpse into one here. 11 is seemingly like in a suit that she'd go into to go into a sensory deprivation tank. So I'm not sure if Mike's there to support her for something like that she has to do again. And I do think that scene is at Hopper's cabin. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, there's a lot of different stuff in the background than there used to be, but it kind of looks like that's where they'd be at. And then to talk about what Jonathan specifically says while all these clips are flashing on screen for us, he's talking about how what him and Nancy and everybody's kind of been through, it ties them together forever. And kind of looks into Nancy's eyes. And I don't know, revealing this type of emotional dialogue from Jonathan in this trailer combined with something we see later on that I'll mention kind of makes me think Jonathan might be on the cutting board here. I don't know for sure. And I know people think Will is going to die, and I definitely don't think both the brothers will die. But I'm starting to think Jonathan is more likely than Will. Will is going to be super crucial and super in danger, but will he ultimately die? I don't think so, and I think it might be Jonathan. Now moving on, we get one of the most highly debated scenes that I've seen online so far. So there's a Demogorgon kind of like on an upside down tree. It appears reaching for one of our characters. Now, most people online believe this is a flashback scene of Will escaping the Demogorgon. All the way back in season 1, they're finally kind of giving us some of the things Will had to go through to escape the Demogorgon in these moments. I'm not completely sold on that. It's kind of hard to tell. I mean, maybe if I really zoomed in on this and tried, I could see that it was Will. And it is a logical explanation. It probably is him. It looks like about the right size for him being younger, but I'm not 100% sold on that, but that probably is the case. Then we do get our first official look at Linda Hamilton underground in this bunker that has all these red lights wearing around. It's a really cool looking scene. Once again, the lighting, everything in this just seems to be filmed so crisply. Then we get Hopper and 11 looking up at what appears to be this big slimy viney wall. We got a picture of this in the date announcement that came out about a month and a half ago at Tadum. And now it appears that the people at the base of that were 11 and Hopper looking up at this thing with flashlights. And we already kind of know that those two are going to be on their own adventure at some point in this. We see a later scene where 11 is in an underground bunker, kind of focusing in on her powers, which I'll emphasize more when I get to that. Next, we have what I believe is Jonathan and Nancy looking up at something that I honestly can't explain. It kind of looks like a huge gate or something opening up in the middle of who knows where. So obviously, this season's just going to be crazy, guys. I don't know. I don't have a great explanation for what this is. But once again, I just think Nancy and Jonathan And that kind of older group of kids, except Robin, is kind of just going to be in the thick of everything. And I'm scared for Jonathan specifically. And then here's the first look we get at Dustin's face, especially in between his eyes and his lips, all bruised up. But that's not really the focus of the scene. He's looking through his binoculars at something in the distance and seems pretty taken aback. And Steve has a very serious look in the background as well. Once again, not much context as to what they're looking to here, but I'm so glad to see these two together and, just being the powerful duo that they are. I hope we get so much of them in this season. And then we start into the part in this teaser where we start getting a lot of the Demogorgon action. Here at first we see Lucas seemingly carrying Max to a different part of the facility or to somewhere else out of her hospital bed. He has her in his arms as a Demogorgon creeps around the corner, and he's trying to shield her, doing everything he can, wearing a really sick WSQK radio station sweater, by the way. I hope I can cop that somewhere. But yeah, this scene looks really interesting. I'm super curious to see when and why he brings Max out of the hospital bed, if it's as a result of her being possessed by Vecna or something going on there, or he just doesn't want her to be up there by herself while the Demogorgons are roaming. Next, we get the scene that we kind of already saw in the Tadum event date release video a little bit of 11 holding her ears and screaming with Hopper trying to caress her. It appears that she's probably using her powers to the max here, and I do think that she's going to be trying to hone and improve her powers a lot through the season. So I don't know if this is her kind of training or if it's already like some psychic warfare going on between her and Vecna. I would doubt they'd probably show that right here. So I think it's probably just her trying to like overcome something in her training or something like that. And maybe that's the quest her and Hopper go on, or at least part of it, her trying to level up her powers so she can take all this crap down. But, obviously that's just a theory. I don't really know what's going on here. But we have the red lights wearing again, so maybe the government is still looking for 11. I guess that would make sense, even though, come on, they got to know she's good at this point, right? And then I just kind of answered my own question here because the very next scene they flash to is military members, it seems, shooting, and there's bullet holes coming through this wall, and Hopper and 11 are ducking down beneath them. He's trying to cover her up. So they are still hunting her down and still think she's a large source of this and kind of causing the problem, which is still crazy to me. But I guess with the evidence they have, it might be reasonable to believe that, but come on. Then you got Steve whipping it into gear, pressing on the gas, the freaking side mirrors coming off. It's going down, baby. And it looks like he's like driving through somewhere in the upside down or like through a gate. Pretty wild stuff. I don't think we've seen that before. Definitely haven't actually. Seeing someone drive through or have a vehicle going through a gate. Then we once again see Joyce standing with the pickaxe in this barn. And then it's followed up once again by Will following over after we get a flash of a Demogorgon. Will is just like going through it, even just in this teaser trailer. I can't imagine how distressed he's going to be actually on screen throughout the entire season. I mean, he's passing out here. Earlier, we saw him looking up like that. In the past thing that we've had released us, his mom was carrying him around, probably after this when he passes out, connecting those dots. So, Will, I don't know, man. It's going to be tough to survive, but I think he does ultimately. Then we get Nancy side by side with Jonathan once again. Seems like they'll be on each other's side pretty much the entire season, per usual, except for season 4. And she is once again loading up that shotgun and trying to kill something. A little throwback to, I guess, season 4, especially when she did that to Vecna in the top of the Creel house, but also, back in season 2 when Hopper gave her that gun to try to shoot the Demogorgons because Jonathan was kind of too scared to use it. And then we get a very interesting scene here. It flashes to Karen with her arms around little Holly Wheeler, and they're submerged in water, seemingly trying to stay quiet and hold their breath for as long as possible so that whatever is above the surface and would see them doesn't see or locate them, so that they don't get injured and harmed. Kind of really makes me question what's going to be going on with them. Obviously, Vecna's got something going on with the Wheeler family, or Holly specifically, because we've seen leaked photos and stuff like that of Holly in some flashback at the Wheeler house. Not sure how that's all going to connect, but this scene itself is very concerning for them. And then we get Robin looking up at the tower that I believe is at WSQK radio station again. And there is kind of the smoke, the upside down smoke that is swirling through that radio tower. And one thing I want to note here is that Robin seems to be the character within this teaser trailer that's moving around in groups the most. You know, she seems to be kind of with everyone, and we'll see her a couple more times on screen to kind of prove my point throughout the last few moments of this trailer here. But, you know, throughout this, you see her with large groups. You see her individually with people like Murray and Will a little later on. Here you see her looking up with nobody in the direct vicinity around her. So I think Robin's going to kind of be a wild card and pretty flexible to what's going on. And maybe she's thrown in a lot of different situations. So that'll be interesting to watch as well. And then maybe the most frightening thing we see in this entire trailer is Nancy in the next slide here, washing blood off her hands in the sink. Whose blood is it? Is it just blood from kind of a battle with an upside down creature? Is it blood from someone dying in her arms? I mean, I don't want to be too morbid here, but obviously some type of death or destruction happened there to lead to that. And I just think these sad cues surrounding Nancy and the monologue, or the dialogue earlier, I should say, with him, it just doesn't make me feel good about Jonathan. This is kind of my last point here as to why I think something could be going down with him in a bad way. Next, we get a flash of Will, his eyes lit up, looking straight at us, and then they close as he's kind of really sweaty and everything like that, probably fighting off his demons related to Vecna, to be honest. And we also get a voiceover of Hopper saying, "I need you to fight one last time." Assuming he's not talking to Will, assuming he's talking to 11, of course. And then we get a quick flash of an emotional Dustin hugging Steve. Maybe it's after he came from Eddie's gravesite and he's kind of upset about that. Maybe throughout all this madness, they've just seen something really frightening, or they almost lost one another, or they lost someone else. And, you know, Dustin needs to be consoled in that moment by Steve. But Steve doesn't look like too overwhelmingly sad here, so I think he's just comforting Dustin. So I'm going to imagine this is just related to kind of his visit at Eddie's grave. Next, we get a confident-looking 11 and Hopper. Hopper with his gun. 11 with the only thing she needs was herself and her powers, looking straight ahead, ready for action, it appears. Once again, they appear to be in some type of mysterious bunker. Not exactly sure what they're going to get themselves into this season, but they got to evade the government. They got to beat Vecna, so some type of plan snowballing toward that conclusion. And then we get more Hopper and 11 with him looking her in her eyes and saying, "Let's end this, kid.
Let's end this, kid."
I love when Hopper calls her kid. You know, he says, "Hey, kid," when he returns at the end of season 4 and sees her for the first time in almost a year after she thought he was dead. It's just kind of sounds like the fatherly tone that we've heard from Hopper in the past. So I love that as well. I also want to mention with 11 laying in this tub and looking up, her outfit looks really cool. And I just want to shout out the outfits like throughout this entire season. If the outfits look how they do in this trailer and are kind of consistent like this throughout the entire season, this might be my favorite like outfits for the cast of any season. Obviously, season 3 had those bright colors and everything with the mall lights and with the outfits themselves to a degree, especially for the women and girls in the show. I think these outfits just look so cool and like capture the essence of Stranger Things in that time period somehow. Anyway, now we get on to some serious craziness once again. Hopper throwing grenades up, I'm assuming at the government, because, you know, they're trying to kill 11, so he's got to do what he's got to do at this point. Might have to take them out. We get a quick flash to Will once again going through hell, seemingly with Vecna here. And Will is going to have to summon something within himself. I've been saying it. I don't think he's going to have powers like 11, but I think he's going to have something more than the average person that he can use to at least escape Vecna for a while, if not help in the fight to a higher degree than just the average human. And then we get Holly frightened. We get a bloodied up Lucas a little bit, frightened as well. We get this clip next of Robin and Murray Bauman together, which we haven't really seen Murray throughout this trailer yet, but he seems to have this Bradley's big buy truck. I think he's going to be like maybe transporting some of them throughout the season, transporting radio supplies to where they need to go. So I think Murray's going to be like a good facilitator in this season. I think that's going to be his role. He might not get as much screen time as we think, but I think he'll be important when he does. Then we get a lot of craziness flashing, which I'm not going to go through every single thing that pops up for like 0.2 seconds, but an important scene we get here again is Nancy and 11 coming through some door, I believe of the Wheeler house it appears, and Nancy has a gun on the main level with 11 right behind her. So some type of evil is within that house. What I'm thinking here is this is Nancy and 11 trying to come and save Mrs. Wheeler and her daughter Holly, because as we see, they're clearly getting hunted down or something by a Demogorgon, Vecna, or one of his friends. And it only makes sense that this would be going on in the Wheeler house, of course. And then the decibels continue to get turned up as the music heightens here, reaching near the end of this teaser trailer. We see a zoom in to what I believe is Will's pupil, and then we see people running through the tunnels. More season 2 vibes, and season 2 is my favorite season, so I love that there's so many callbacks to it in here. But anyhow, we get that. We get the decibels turning up on the radio set once again. We get Erica with a needle, who we also, I don't believe, have seen in this teaser up to this point, at least not very much. And then we see what is probably the coolest scene in this entire teaser trailer as a glimpse of what's to come, with 11's probably growing powers, and she is flying over the bus where they were at in season 1, kind of hiding out away from the Hawkins lab people. And I just can't believe that a character already as epic as 11 could be flying on screen in front of us. She's levitated before for probably like a minute long in season 2, but we've never seen her literally fly like a bird like this. And then we see a Demogorgon break up through a gate up from the upside down. It then goes to Joyce over top of somebody crawling on the ground, and then flashes over to Mike. That appears to be like in the span of a few seconds in the episode time. So I think that's all kind of happening in the same time. They look like they're all in the middle of the town as well, in downtown Hawkins.
Found you.
And then we finally get this glimpse of Vecna, and a lot of people online are stirring about how Vecna looks different. His back is like all thorny now. I mean, it might still be vines, just kind of portrayed in a different way or growing out in a different way, or he has like some type of extra like armor on him that he's either naturally created, or I don't know the why behind it, but he does look a little different. Still looks epic though, and he's using his powers to deflect some fire that's being spewed at him, conceivably by 11 or by someone else that has some type of flamethrower. We know we saw Murray do that in season 4 toward a Demogorgon, or maybe somebody, you know, in Hawkins like Mike or one of the other crew members has a flamethrower or something like that. And also, as one of the closing things here, we get Vecna saying, "Found you," to someone. Now, who this is to, I would imagine 11. I'd imagine this is going to be like a line in the mid to late episodes where he's going to be searching for 11, and he's going to say, "I found you." Either that or Will, of course. Those are kind of the two characters where like a line like that would really hit, I think. But obviously it's going to be creepy and menacing no matter who it's toward, because we don't want to see any of our beloved characters go. So there you have it, guys. I just went through the entire teaser trailer frame by frame and broke down what I saw, gave a little bit of my reaction to it. Overall, I loved this teaser trailer. It does leave me with a lot of questions, but that's exactly what you want. You want, to have more questions, not to have really any of them answered, but to just get a glimpse into the awesomeness that is going to be Stranger Things 5. And like I mentioned several times throughout, I love the mix of the old nostalgia of the show, kind of the darker tone that they're going for here, both thematically and also aesthetically. And I like how that's going to combine with the highest stakes we've ever seen, probably a couple new monsters, couple new versions of our current characters, Will probably being able to summon up something else within him, Max potentially having crazy stuff going on with her, even though they're not going to show us much of that here, and really all of our characters on the go and fighting to try to eliminate this evil one last time for good. But yeah, everyone, this was awesome. Can't wait for Stranger Things 5. We're a little over 4 months away, and we're lucky to have gotten this treat this far before the season. So thanks, have a good one, and I'll see you guys later.